And here we go with Livy again. It's the 28th of July, it's 2022. Chapter 5. Yam tum. So yam's now, tum is then. So you can say now then, in the Palatine Mountain, these two are ablatives, the Lupercal, this, ferunt, they say, to have been the games, the Lupercal games. This is also ludicrum, it's a neuter second, it can mean a show, plaything, or a stage game. And a palantio, and this is from the Palantium. We're still here having ablative, a Arcadian city. So the Palatine was an Arcadian city. Palantium was called. Then, next in time, the mountain was called the Palatine Hill from this. So, yeah, back in those days, they would still have these Lupercal games, or the, I think they call it the Lupercalia. There, in the adverb, this is translated as Evander. It's the accusative. Who from this race, Arcadum goes with this as accusative, they're in apposition. So Evander the Arcadian, who came from this race, multis ante tempestibus. These are plural ablatives. So many years before, tenuerit loca. He had held this place, alatum, that's still with this accusative past passive ending. So he brought these solemn games here, ex Arcadia, from Arcadia, instituisi. Evander the Arcadian, from that race, many years before, he had instituted these solemn games. And then we've got a bit of a purpose going on here. Ut nudai juvenes. This is plural nominatives. So that naked young man, here's their present participle. They are venerating or honouring Lycian Panna, Lycian Pan. Per lusum and lascivian current. So these naked young men venerating Pan, they ran about in games and in lascivia, in pleasure basically, which we've got the going into accusative. The Romans, that's the nominative, then they called Eunice. Huic deditos ludicro cum solemne. So ludicro solemne is the ablatives, they're in apposition. So we've got given over to huic, this solemn game, and cum just means when. So when they were given over this solemn game, notum esset. It was known, insidiatos, these are plotters, or that sort of thing, ob iram, so that's your preposition, because of the anger, the ire, prede amice, this is a double genitive, then the latrones. So these are the bandits who are the insidious. These are the bandits who are plotting because of anger, because of their lost booty, plunder, which is the double genitives. Cum Romulus vi se defendisset. This is a reflexive say. So when Romulus was defending himself with force, v is the force in the ablative, capisse remum. They captured Remus. So Romulus was defending himself with force, and they caught Remus. Captum, that's the past passive. You can see it's in accusative that goes with remum captum. He was captured and he was tradised to King Amulius. So he was handed over to King Amulius. Ultro, so furthermore, an ultro, present participle, plural, they were accusing him. I'll also make the daily dictionary word now, is ludicrum. A show, source of fun, plaything, a stage play, since ludicrum is mentioned twice already. Crimini maxime. We're looking at ablatives. So darbent, they gave with the maximus crime, the greatest crime, in numatoris agros. So the in and the agros go together because you can only have accusatives and ablatives with So into the fields of numator, abius, from these people, which would be Romulus and Remus and their group, fieri, it happened, an impetum attack. So they said with the maximus crime, the greatest crime, that would been that they had made an attack into the fields of Numitor. Inde eos collecta, then they having collected a manu, which is a handful of young men, that's the genitive. Manus is a fourth, but it's female, so that's why collector is female. So then Romulus and Remus, eos, having collected a handful of young men, hostilem in modum, praedes agere. So as an enemy, in modum is in the way of an enemy, they conducted themselves raiding for praedes, for booty. Sic numitori, which is a third noun, ad supplicim Remus deditor, nice short sentence. So thus Remus, the nominative, was given over to Numitor, the dative, for supplication, for punishment. Iam inde. So now then, again, we've got from initio, from the beginning, forstulo furat spes. From the very beginning, Forstula, he was the shepherd who found the boys. He had hope that they were the stirpem regium, that they were the royal offspring, and they were a pudse amongst him, or amongst him and his wife, educare, was the infinitive. So they were being raised amongst him, the offspring of royal line. Nam. For et also, or two, for also, Yusu, by the order of the king, Scibet, he was knowing, infantes expositus, that's accusative plural, the infants had been exposed, and tempus, the time, quo, by which, ipse himself, sustules eos, the time which he had taken them away, was congruent to this tempus, which is neuter, itself. So he knew that by the orders of the king, the boys had been placed out, and the time was the same when he picked them up, congruent to the time when this order had gone out. Sed rem, accusative, immature rem, adjective, accusative, but the matter immature, unless ought either through the occasion, for the right occasion, or through necessity, to be opened, aperi nol veront. Now, that's the verb that takes an infinitive. So he didn't want to be open, the matter opened immaturely, unless it was the right occasion or through necessity. Necessitat prior venit. Necessity came first. So prior was necessary. And thus, metu, by fear, sub actus, that's a past passive, he was moved by fear, Romulo, to Romulus, rem apparet, to make the matter open to Romulus. Forte, the adverb. So by chance, et also, numitore, to numitor, when in custodia remum haberet, when he had Remus in custody, quays the enclitic, and he had heard, looks like a pluperfect, to be twin brothers. When he had heard that they were twin brothers, we have a gerund. By comparing, comparando, also a titamorum, the age of them, and ipsam minime servilem indolem. So indolem's the inborn characteristics, and their leastly characteristic servilitude, so that they were very haughty, they didn't act like slaves. This is tango, it's a repetitive perfect where it doubles up. So, and it touched his mind, the memory touched his mind, nepotum, of his grandsons. Schiscitando qui, so you got the enclitic qui on a gerund, and so by coming to the same pervenit eodem, so he came to the same understanding of inquiring, ut hord proco, that he was not far from, quin here is just meaning from, not far he was from recognizing that it was Remus. Ita undiqui regai dolus nectator. So thus, from everywhere, this dolus, was this deceit of knots. He connected the dots here, the king, regai. Romulus non cum globo juvenum, that's a plural genitive. Romulus, not with a glob of young men, or a ball of young man. Enim nec, for erat nec, for he was not ad vim apertum par. So what he was not par. He was not equal to open violence, ad vim apertum. But alias alio, but some by some way, itinerary. This is making a path, making by some way of doing it. Usus, by orders, certo tempore. So this ablative here means at a certain time, ad regiem venir pastoribus. So the usus and pastoribus means he'd ordered shepherds at a certain time to come to the regiem, to the palace, ad regem in petum facet, that they would make an attack on the king. And a domo numitor, and from the house of Numitor, alia comparata manu, another procured handful of men, or band. So Remus came adjuvant to help. Ita regem obtruncat, and thus Romulus cut down the king. Romulus back here, and we have Remus there.